Ctrl Alt Cinema is a short intensive course on the art of cinema. While designing the posters and website for this course, we were given 3 images to work with. 2 of them are from the same film 8½, and the third one is from Metropolis. It's a very evocative picture. Although it's only an image, you can still feel the movements. The interaction of the man in the picture with this giant clock-like device makes it appear as if he's trying to control the time, which essentially is what we do in cinema, which is mindfully expressed by Andrei Tarkovsky in his book Sculpting in Time. Time that essentially manifests itself through movement and space, sound and silence. The man in this scene is a Jesus-like figure who gets crucified by time. The idea of time in cinema has many variations, many dimensions, but it's never really the intellectual representation of time. And an image of a giant clock is very much like the intellectual representation of time. When we see a clock, we may associate it with time, but when we think of time, how often do we think of a clock? The clock is there for the time, but the time is not there for the clock. Therefore, the idea was a little problematic. We had to drop it. Now we were left with these 2 images. 8½, directed by Federico Fellini, is a landmark film for many reasons, but it certainly is the first film and perhaps the most effective one when it comes to illustrating the mind of a filmmaker. It is also an expedition of cinema from its inception, from the idea that paintings could move to literally anywhere your imagination can take you. Imagination that frees you from the entrapment of absurdities. But even in the state of absolute freedom, there is always something that pulls us back. And in this scenario, the state of fulfillment can only be achieved through a balancing act. And this image gives us the illusion of exactly that. But there were a lot of designing constraints coming with this image. It would also have been disrespectful towards our board of teachers if we had put their names next to a giant shoe. So we had to drop this idea as well. At Ctrl Alt Cinema, we say that we have a purpose, not a syllabus, because it's not really a film appreciation course and it's not fully a filmmaking course either. One could say it's a combination of both, but more. The curriculum is designed to make you think like a filmmaker. In return, it may empower you to express yourself through this medium of cinema and any other medium associated with it, not limited only to visual arts. Therefore, the imagery of 8½, serves as a vehicle for our vision. 8½, is one such rare example that's not only a film in classical terms, but also in experimental terms. It is also very much like a surreal art installation, and to some extent, a marker of history as well. It is a film, it is a circus, it is a theater, it is life. And at the center of all this is this character called Saraghina. The film's protagonist, Guido, is a filmmaker who is suffering from creative block due to a midlife crisis that he is going through. There is tremendous pressure on him to start working on his next film, and he is confused. He gets to have recurring visions of Claudia, an ideal woman whom he perceives as the missing piece to his puzzle. He sees her as his salvation, the inspiration that supposedly would save his film, and the film in return would supposedly put an end to his crisis.
Volevo fare un film onesto, senza bugie di nessun genere.
The crisis that was a result of his perverse sexuality and immense imagination to begin with. Sexuality and imagination are symbols of liberation, but they do come with their baggage.
Guido! Guido! Dove corri, disgraziato? Saraghina! Saraghina!
Saraghina was the one who introduced young Guido with the world of sexuality. His bursting sexuality had a clash with his religious upbringing. He was even punished and ridiculed for it, which led him to question the authority and the morality of Catholic Church. And yet in his endeavors, he seeks their approval.
Sente che sembra un singhiozzo.
Likewise, despite of being gifted with his unsparing imagination, Guido still seeks approval from the critics. Despite of this perverse desire of self-expression, he is still concerned about the financial successes and failures, whereas he absolutely despises such things. These two aspects are at the same time parallel and intersecting, complementary and contradicting. And Saraghina lives at the center of all this nonsense, a woman from Guido's childhood, who is the intrigue and inspiration that made him a filmmaker in the first place. Because along with self-expression, the role of a filmmaker is to ask important questions. Therefore, she lives at the beach, at the fringe of rigid reality and fluid imagination. In the chapter titled The Film Image of the book Sculpting in Time, Tarkovsky writes, if you throw even a cursory glance into the past, at the life which lies behind you, not even recalling its most vivid moments, you are struck every time by the singularity of the events in which you took part, the unique individuality of the characters you met. This singularity is like the dominant note of every moment of existence, in each moment of life. The artist therefore tries to grasp the principle and make it incarnate, in fidelity to his personal vision. The initial interaction with Saraghina is that singularity, not only of that moment of Guido's life, but his entire life, as it is evident by the film that she has a lasting impression on him, both in his personal and professional life. Guido's quest essentially has two parts, before Saraghina and after Saraghina. Therefore, she is not only the singularity of his life as portrayed in the film, she is also the singularity of the film he is making, and also the singularity of the film we are watching. The film which, according to Martin Scorsese, is
8.5 is the purest expression of love for the cinema that I know of. Because Fellini had made a film about film that can only exist as a film and nothing else.
The missing piece of Guido's puzzle is not Claudia, but Saraghina.
Che imbroglione che sei.
Guido doesn't realize that, but Fellini does. Therefore, he sends Guido back in his childhood to express his gratitude.